Dear Jill, I lost my eldest sister when I was 5 years old. I lost my grandparents between being the ages of 7 to 16. And I lost my dad when I was 22, and my mum when I was 24, and my late husband in 2023. How can I begin to overcome this life of grief?
June, that is an enormous amount of loss. And it just feels very unfair that some people have so much loss in their life so early on as well. And others can, experience loss in the way that everybody hopes that we experience loss, which is just a long and happy life. And then, you lose someone at the end because we all know that that's what happens. It's so funny, isn't it? With life and with suffering and with pain and the things we go through. Nobody would ever wish it on anyone. And some of the things that I've experienced, I wouldn't, if I could click my fingers and live my life again, I would still go through them because the lesson is in the pain. That is where every lesson you'll ever learn in your life. You don't learn from success. You don't learn from happiness. You learn from suffering and you learn from pain. So I can only imagine that you must be a very wise and, I would have presumed, a very empathetic person because of what you've been through, because of what you've had to go through your whole life with. And I would also maybe, from your message as well, think that maybe losing your partner feels like the last kick in the stomach. And you're thinking, why? Why me? But part of our grief is the acceptance. I'm in recovery, and there is a phrase where we say, why me? Why not me? And it really is just a way of leveling ourselves with everybody else, because it can feel like there's so much suffering that you've had to put up with that other people haven't had to experience. But I think one of the things I've learned in my life is that some people's suffering is easy to see. Your loss, you can say, this is all the loss I've had in my life. And other people suffer in very different ways that you would never know about, you would never think about. Very privately, sometimes people live extremely lonely lives in their own suffering. So you can live with all that loss. You are living with all that loss. You could, if you wanted to, not that you have to, put all of that experience to use. You could go and help people who are also grieving. You could become like a grief counselor of some sort. You could help out at a grief cafe or a grief charity. And you're like, listen, I got all the life experience you need here. But if you don't want to do that, that's completely fine as well. But you just have to know that your grief, your pain, your experience is not the end of you. It's just the part of you, in the way that somebody else is suffering that we might never know about, that they will hold on privately until the end of their days and never tell a single soul about. That's their suffering and that's their pain. And we're all going through it. Nobody gets away from this. Just because somebody doesn't experience the amount of loss you have, they've experienced something else. So it's easy for us to feel like we've been given the crappy end of the stick, basically. But I think that the reality is that if we were all really honest, cards on the table, I think we probably all could really learn from each other and understand that actually everyone's just riding this roller coaster, and there are good times and there are bad times, and there are times where you just think, I just cannot take anymore, and there are times where you think, life feels like kind of wonderful, and I believe that you'll have those life is wonderful again.